everyone. Hope your day has been swell. I'm your host, Ariana Shell, and you're listening to Insecurity to Identity on ZooNews.com. Today is week 6, guys, and you are going to be learning about your identity after college. And today we're featuring 2 guests and 2 very good friends of mine in the journalism program. We have some other good segments to come today. We have our good news segment, we have our spotlight, as well as a bit of encouragement from the special guest that I did mention before. We have some good new songs today. We also have some new artists that I've featured. Last week I tried to get you some new artists that haven't played before, and so I did that for you guys again. I'm featuring some new artists for you, and it's November. Now, I don't know whose side you're on with the whole November equals Christmas sort of argument, but in my case, I'm the type of girl that says if it's November 1st, it's Christmas season. So I'm going to be starting up our Christmas songs today with Lauren Daigle. And I know I've told you this every week, guys, but I do have my social media pages up for you guys. If you miss a segment or if you miss an episode, I upload them on the weekends. I have all 5 shows that I've done so far up on Facebook. I also have a Twitter page and an Instagram page as well that you can follow. Week 5 is up, and week 6 will be going up over the weekend. To start off our music today, here's Eagle and Child, followed by Jamie Grace. To start us off, let's look at a few ways that God's been good this week with What's Good. So this first story I want to talk to you guys about, since we're kind of on the topic of sports tonight, is the New York City Marathon that just happened past week. And the winners that crossed the finish line were the first U.S. women's winner since 1977. And this woman's name was Shalane Flanagan, and she was the first woman to win a marathon, or to win the NYC Marathon since 1977. Jeffrey Kamworor of Kenya won the men's title with his first major win as well. And Mary Keatoney, who is also from Kenya, she had won 3 straight marathons in New York. So before Shalane Flanagan won hers, Mary Keatoney had won the past 3. Flanagan pulled out in front of Keatoney with 3 miles to spare, and she finished in 2 hours and 26 minutes, only a minute faster than Keatoney. Now, that may not sound like a lot to you guys, but as a person who ran track, that's actually an insane amount of time. If you think about it, in this marathon that took someone 2 hours and 26 minutes to finish, a minute, yes, that doesn't sound like a lot, but a minute can be a long time. And the last American woman to win the New York Marathon was in 1976. And Flanagan had actually placed second in her first New York Marathon, but that was back in 2010, and she hadn't run since. The first race since the Rio Olympics, when she fractured her lower back, was the New York Marathon, which she ran the past week. And Flanagan had called Keatoney the alpha racer and said she was ready to suffer dearly while keeping pace with her opponent. Many were fearing the safety of the race after the recent attack in Manhattan. And so the article stated that police had promised an unprecedented effort to secure the course, a plan including hundreds of extra uniformed patrol and plainclothes officers, roving teams of counterterrorism commandos armed with heavy weapons, bomb-sniffing dogs, and rooftop snipers. So this was a crazy amount of security for this New York Marathon, which is a good thing, because I think that for these athletes, it can be scary to put themselves into that position, especially with the things that have been happening. So I'm sure it was really securing for them to know that they had protection behind them, as well as for the viewers themselves. I know I would be really nervous to go to something like that with the bombings that have been happening, and even the recent one in Manhattan. I wouldn't want to go to something like that, but it was good to know that they were providing enough security for the event. The same day, the Switzerland team took a win in the wheelchair marathon, and Manuela Schär ended Tatiana McFadden's 4-time championship. So Schär was on the Switzerland team, and the Swiss men's team actually also won, thanks to Marcel Hug. I love that last name. And Schär completed the race in 1 hour and 48 minutes, coming in first after finishing runner-up the past 3 years, which was probably a really great accomplishment for him. I know coming in second place 3 years in a row can be really frustrating, so I'm glad that he was able to get this first place win. Berlin and London, the London Marathon that he also participated in this past year, Schär beat McFadden in 3 minutes, and this is also a huge accomplishment. 3 minutes is a long time for him, and so he pulled out that win 3 minutes in front of McFadden. And Hug repeated as the men's wheelchair champion and won New York for the third time. So this is his third time winning. And this is the first time that the wheelchair races were won by competitors from the same country. So I also think that's really cool. Yay for Switzerland. And Hug won last year's race by 600ths of a second over Australia's Kurt Fearnley. So that's crazy. Coming a little bit off of sports, I'd like to talk about a story about a 9-year-old with cancer who wants cards for his last Christmas. This little boy's name is Jacob Thompson, and he has stage 4 high-risk neuroblastoma, and he found out about this in October, so this was only a month ago, that he only has about a month to live. And he wants to celebrate Christmas early this year and is simply asking for cards as gifts. And this is such a sweet, innocent gift that he's hoping for this Christmas. And he was diagnosed at 5 years old. So he's really little. And according to the American Cancer Society, only half of children diagnosed with the disease reach the 5-year survival mark. So it's great to see that he's been able to live, a little bit past the 5 years, but he's asked for the cards from anybody around the world to share in his Christmas spirit. So the pictures of him that I saw in the article were really sweet. He had taken pictures of him during the Halloween holiday, and this wish kind of began during Halloween when he was diagnosed. He wanted cards to read from people, and he had all these cute Halloween cards surrounding him. And after only 5 days of announcing his wish, he had already received over 100 cards. And Jacob's mother said in the CNN article, "We'd like people to live life like a penguin. And by that, we mean dive into life, find warmth among friends, stay cool, and just give to others." And she was referring to Jacob's favorite penguin poem called Advice from a Penguin. And I think that was really cute of his mom to say. Now, if you would like to send Jacob a card, his address is Jacob Thompson, Maine Medical Center, 22 Bramhall Street in Portland. And I will put up the address on my social media pages if you'd like to send him a card this week. And my Article of the Week award, if you guys know me, I know I said that don't be shocked if it's going to be an animal article, but it's different this week. But it's going to be a marching band article. So this article was about an elementary school marching band and drumline headed by an alumni that went there. And this is a group of 45 4th and 5th graders who are learning about marching band at Maple Elementary School in Cambridge. And it's really rare to have marching bands to begin in elementary schools. A lot of times you don't even learn how to start playing wood or brass instruments until middle school. And so when I read this article, I was really impressed, and there was a video attached, and so I watched the video to see how good they were, because it's pretty cute to see kids playing their recorder in elementary school in the recorder band. But these kids were pretty good, and they had some really good talent going for them. I think what's best for them is that they have a ton of energy and they just enjoy being with each other, and there's not really a lot of drama in elementary school. So having a marching band at that age is probably a pretty simple task because they have the energy to do it. Even if they get frustrated, you can just put them on a different instrument and they'll start having fun with it again. And Hallmark Pananzu is 10 years old, and he's the drum major for this marching band. The band is called the Marching Lions, and they've even appeared on local television and on ABC Good Morning America, and this was on October 13th, so this was pretty recent. And they even performed at a high school pep rally and in a parade at Morgan State University's homecoming. And I think that's so cool because honestly, I would be really entertained if a little elementary school band came and performed at APU. I would think that was so cool, especially since we don't have a marching band anymore here. I would love to live vicariously through those little kids. And the band has actually had a really profound impact on the pupils, where 87% of these children qualify for free or reduced price meals. And this is all thanks to Ray Washington Jr., who actually founded the marching band. And he was a Morgan State student, and he performed for 4 years in the drumline of the university's magnificent marching machine. And Washington had drew upon his experiences at Morgan to create the school marching band and drumline. He helped raise money through local organizations for instruments and uniforms. And the first drum cadence that the marching lines learned, the article said it took them 2 months to master. And Washington was saying that now it only takes the band about less than 2 weeks to learn a drum cadence. And that's really impressive because I know when I was in marching band in high school and as a drum major in high school marching band, our drum line was pretty good. And now keep in mind, these drum cadences are probably very simplified compared to a high school drum cadence, but that's still pretty impressive to have little kids learn a drum cadence in less than 2 weeks. And the band teacher said he's very happy to see people devoting their time and energy to making sure music remains in schools. And I totally agree with that. The arts program recently in elementary and even middle schools has been suffering. And even at the high school level, a lot of these arts programs are lacking in funding, lacking in professors and teachers to help teach them. Sometimes even kids have a hard time devoting that much time to a band or any art program. A lot of kids are referring to just doing sports now, and I think that it's really important to start appreciation for music at a really young age. Sometimes I think that middle school is even too late for some kids, and so I think it's really cool that this band is starting them at such a young age to appreciate and learn how to do different music skills. And speaking of the skills, it's a really important way that kids can learn early on about math, about communication skills, about how they interact with others, how they make friends. There's just so many great things that go into programs like band or art club or anything like that that can teach kids how to be better people in general later on in life. So I thought that was a really cool story for you guys, and I just wanted to share that with you. After the break, we're going to be talking about this week's spotlight on a Christian ministry that has impacted many student athletes and their identity. Until then, here's Hillsong and For King and Country. For this week's spotlight, we're going to be talking about Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And FCA, according to their website, since 1954, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes has been challenging coaches and athletes on the professional, college, high school, junior high, and youth levels to use the powerful medium of athletics to impact the world for Jesus Christ. Now, I don't know any of you guys ever went to FCA meetings in high school, but I did, and it was one of the greatest days of the week, to be honest, because I knew that whenever I went into those meetings, there were going to be kids and peers in there that were either on the same sports teams as me or different sports teams that had the same mentality as I did, and I could feel free to talk about the Bible, I could talk about scripture, and I just felt really free in that environment. And it was really cool to even talk to Christian professors on campus. We were lucky to have 2 of them, and it was really cool to just be able to get that bit of Jesus for the week and talk to kids that were encouraging and were using good sportsmanship and athletics. And a little bit of fact about the FCA, their website is maintained and operated by the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and it's a 501(c) nonprofit Christian sports ministry. So you know that when you're supporting ministries like these, it's really just there to help other kids to learn more about Jesus, to be able to feel comfortable in their school and feel comfortable being a Christian athlete. And they have different ministries that are through FCA. So they have the coach's ministry, which focuses on ministering to the heart of the coach first and then through the coach. They have the campus ministry, which is a certified ministry that is initiated and led by student athletes, sponsored coaches, supported by staff, established on junior high, high school, or college campuses, and meets on a regular basis. So I had it in high school, and I didn't really have it. I didn't have anything like this in middle school, and I don't have anything like it in college, but obviously that's because I go to a Christian university. Now, at my last school, when I went to Cal State San Marcos, I didn't have FCA, but I had a different Christian club on campus, so I was lucky enough to have that. But I know a lot of times kids don't really have outlets that they can use as a Christian ministry on campus. So FCA tries to go out and find those campuses and create clubs and programs in which kids can be comfortable talking about their faith around others. And something like this is really important for athletes, because I think a lot of times we go into sports worried about the game, worrying about other people that are on those teams and how we're supposed to act around our teammates and how we're supposed to act in the game. And FCA is just a great way for kids to be encouraged and not be afraid to be a Christian athlete and be outspoken about being a Christian athlete. And this encouraged me that there were other student athletes around me on my volleyball team, on my track team, that I could go to in case something was getting hard for the game that day, or if we wanted to pray before the game. I know that was really cool that I was able to know that, okay, these girls here either they go to my church or they're in FCA with me, so I can pray with them before my game. And I can't imagine not having that, especially now going to APU. I love being able to pray before when I do intramural volleyball. We always pray before our games. And even in any situation, I think it's really important to be able to be able to find those kids who you can pray with or you can talk about Jesus with if you're having a hard time that day. And it was when I entered into APU, it was really hard for me to suddenly not participate in athletics. And even though I do intramural, I actually did think for a while about doing track in college, but it's kind of just a really hard thing for me to think about mixing athletics with schoolwork, and I really now look up to the kids who do that because it's a lot of work. And to be honest, it did feel like a little bit of my identity was dropped off in high school when I couldn't do sports anymore in college because it was such a huge part of my life. I literally went to practice every day after school. Winter season was the only time where I didn't have sports. Even then, I had to do club volleyball. And so this was something that I did every day, probably until about 8 o'clock at night. And then I would do my homework and then just wake up the next morning to get back at it again. And so when I got to college and I didn't have to do that every day, it was so weird. It was kind of refreshing in a way, but it also kind of made me sad because the camaraderie of the team and just being able to be around that many people and have a fun time and doing what I love to do and being athletic was kind of weird and difficult for a long time, but I had to turn around my mindset that sports are what I was meant to do past college. And is this something that God had for me in my life? And I think that he answered that and that no, it's not because I never did try out for the track team, but I do still really enjoy doing intramurals. And I always tell people that that's a great way for you to still be able to play your sport, even if you're not on the team. And if you're interested in looking into it, FCA website has many resources for student athletes to use to encourage them to compete for Jesus. They have devotionals, they have Bible studies, they also have really cool videos that you can look into. And there's also a lot of brands that you can use that are Christian-made brands that you can use to share your faith with others. Active Faith is a great brand. They were founded in 2010 and launched in 2012. And their vision was to use the platform that sports provided to share the gospel. And Active Faith is a clothing brand, and they have a lot of cool athletic clothing that helps you share your faith. That has little inspirational messages and verses on it. And it was one of my favorite clothing brands when I worked at Family Christian. And I thought it was a really cool way to bring your faith to the court or to the field. And there are so many other ways in which athletes can allow your identity in Christ to shine through in competition and continue to grow in your faith. So if you're interested in looking into the FCA website, they also have opportunities and materials for you to start FCA on your campus or in your friend group if you're ever interested. We're going to take a short break, but we'll be right back with a bit of encouragement from our special guests and to my very good friends, Stephen Baltierra and Jourdan Jefferson. Until then, here's Need to Breathe and Toby Mack. All right, guys, I think I can say this for all of my fellow college peers when I say that finding your identity after ending something in your life you have done for years can be really difficult. Just as I was saying before, if you're an athlete all through your life in high school, and you just all of a sudden stop being an athlete in college, or if you're an athlete in college and after college you just don't have that desire to do that anymore, it can be really tough. So I have Stephen and Jourdan in the studio today, and they are both athletes. Jourdan is a tennis player at APU, and Stephen was a baseball player in high school. And they're going to be sharing a little bit about their lives and experiences. Hello, Stephen and Jourdan.
Hello.
Hello.
So if you guys could just tell me a little bit about yourselves as well as your major.
Well, I'm Jourdan. I am a senior, and I play tennis here at APU. I've basically been playing tennis all my life since I was maybe 9. And I think, yeah, it's a big part of my life, and I don't really know. I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't continue to play tennis.
Yeah, Steven. I'm a senior here at APU as well, journalism major, obviously. I started playing baseball like around age 8, and I stopped playing at 21 at my junior college before I transferred. I did come here to play baseball in 2015. The first month of the season, I came, hurt my arm, and I just said screw baseball, and then I stopped playing. But I finished the semester, and then I took a year off, but came back to school.
Okay, great. And if you guys could both describe what has been the best and the worst thing about being an athlete, either all through college, as Jordan has been, or Steven, who started out in college and then is no longer a collegiate athlete.
I think the best thing is just being able to go play different places, doing something that I love. I always told myself I wanted to go pro after high school, and clearly that's not the plan that God had for me. But yeah, but the worst thing I would have to say is that people think that student athletes have it very, very easy, and that's not the case for us. We get like the priority registration, but we do miss a lot of classes, and it's very hard to stay on top of your classes and play tennis or any other sport. And it's honestly like having a job. It teaches you how to time manage very, very well. So I think playing tennis, it only hasn't helped me with the physical aspect, but the mental aspect as well.
Yeah, I think the best part for me was like all the friends that I made, and just like kind of see them progress. Because like I like a lot of people that I played with, they're like playing in the Major League Baseball right now, and I see them on TV, and it's like, oh, I remember that guy. Like he was such like a goof off like in high school. You know what I'm saying? So like have all the memories that I have like throughout my years of playing baseball. That's like the best part of it, and I think I'm so glad because I played because of that. The worst part I think is like Jordan said, it's like you're always moving, like constantly moving. Like I don't have any time. I didn't have any time off. And the thing is, I used to work too while I was playing baseball. So I'd go to weights in the morning at 5 o'clock, go to school, go to class, go to practice, get out of practice, and then go work. You know what I'm saying? So like I was just always moving. I didn't have time to like really think. And I think the problem with that is that when I stopped playing, I had too much time to think, and I was like, oh, what am I gonna do now? You know what I'm saying? So that was like probably the worst part about it.
Okay. And how has being an athlete played a part into your identity as a Christian? I know Jordan touched on that, but if you guys could go into that a little bit deeper for me.
With me, I don't know. At a point in time, I did. Okay, well, before I came here, I went to Mount San Antonio, that's down the street, and I did my 2 years. And after those 2 years, I did not know what I wanted to do. And sadly, I got a boyfriend. No, that sounds real wrong, but I got a boyfriend, and I kind of just went the opposite way of where I wanted to go in life. And I started to miss tennis. I went without playing tennis for 2 years, and I realized like I'm not myself. I don't know what I'm doing without tennis. And I slowly but surely started to get back into it. And like I said earlier, it's molded me to be the person that I am today, the strong, independent woman sitting here talking to you. And I just look back on everything that I've done, and I'm glad I went through everything, because if I didn't go through all that stuff, I wouldn't have been able to learn. And I don't regret anything from my past. So I think that's kind of helped me.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like completely honest. Like I wasn't a Christian when I was playing sports. Like that's probably like I think the blessing in disguise, because when I did play sports, I wasn't a Christian. I didn't act like a Christian either. Like I didn't go to like I come from a Catholic family, and like most of the kids that I grew up with, my friends, we go to this one Catholic church. It's a small town, so we all went to this Catholic church. So we made all our sacraments: baptism, confirmation, first communion, all the sacraments that Catholic people have to do. But like I wasn't invested in the church, Like my mom didn't force me to go to church when I got older. And when I got to college and I started playing, I definitely didn't care about church. Like I didn't pray. I never prayed. I didn't know what a prayer was. I knew what it was, but I didn't pray. I didn't know how to pray. And I was always focused on like, oh, going to a party this weekend. Like whose house are we gonna drink at this weekend? What are we gonna do this weekend? And when I stopped playing, that's when I became a Christian, because like I realized like who were my real friends and who weren't my real friends, who was there and who wasn't there for me. You know what I'm saying? So now I have like a really tight circle. And it's just a very tight circle of friends, and like no one comes in and no one goes out. Like that's how I see it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just a really tight, because like those people were there for me when I didn't have baseball and I didn't know who I was. So like God came into my life after, because I had all this time to think. I was like always so busy, worried about partying, worried about school, worried about baseball, worried about working, And then when I stopped, I was like, okay, now what am I gonna do? And I had all this time to think. And I think that's when, like, I guess I'm not saying like God, shine this light on me and oh my goodness, I became a Christian all of a sudden, because that wasn't the case. But like I think over time it just like, I kind of prioritized like what was important in my life, and I think that's why I found out like God was a major part of my life.
Cool. And okay, so this is a similar question, but how has being an athlete damaged or built up your identity? It can be either inward or outward identity.
Okay. Jordan doesn't want to talk right now. I'll get this one. So you're saying how did it build up and then damage it?
Or
Damage it?
Yeah.
Because for me, it did both.
Okay.
Like when I played baseball and I was at my peak, you know, I was getting recruited by the top schools in the nation. And these are schools that I dreamed about going when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, like Cal State Fullerton, the best college baseball program in the country. Like they recruited me. I was like, let's go. Like my ego was so huge, you know. Everything was like, oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go pro. I'm gonna play major leagues. I'm gonna do this. And like my identity was just baseball, and like that's what it was. Like, you know, I was the guy. And then when I stopped, like once I stopped playing baseball, it was just like a free fall. I just went in free fall. I was like, what am I gonna do now? Like I don't know what else I'm good at. So like I went from like the pinnacle to just like free fall, just because it got taken away from me. It wasn't like I knew I was gonna stop playing. You know what I'm saying? Because like a lot of college athletes, when their senior year comes around, that's my last year gonna be playing athletics. I'm done. Like when I stopped playing in the middle of the season. And it was like that. Like my injury happened and it was over. So for me, it was like a free fall. Like what do I do now? So I just said, you know, I'm done with school. I'm out of here. I'm just gonna go work. I'm gonna make money. I'm done with this. So that's what for me, like I was so lost, and it really damaged me because my mom would always talk to like my family. Was, oh, Steven's doing this in baseball. Steven's doing that in baseball. Steven's doing this. He's gonna go play here, you know. And when I stopped playing baseball, I was like, oh, what are you doing now? Oh, I'm working. Like I went from like this athlete that was gonna go places to like, now I'm just a normal guy. And that for me was like the hardest thing to deal with. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is worse. Like, this is terrible. So like I had so much time to think, and that's really what damaged me. And like for the longest time, it just ate at me. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Jourdan, do you have anything to add?
I don't even know how to go from that. I think kind of the same with Steven. With me in tennis, I was the number one player all through high school. And it was like kind of like he said, I felt like the woman in this case. Like no one could beat me down. I had Cal State Fullerton looking at me, Cal State LA, partially USC for a little bit. I had like big schools, but I made the biggest mistake any athlete could make, and I didn't register for the NCAA clearinghouse. So that was out, and went to Mount Sac, still was number one, did everything. But like I said, after those 2 years, I was just like, okay, now what? I never got steered in the direction of, oh, from here you go on to a 4-year university. I didn't know that. So while I'm still at Mount Sac taking classes, I'm seeing all my friends either at Cal State LA, USC, graduating. They already did their 2 years, and I'm still at school. So I think, like he said, those 2 years of me not playing tennis, I lost myself. I did not know what to do without tennis. And I think, actually, I'm kind of glad that I ended up coming to APU because it let me find myself again. And it let God steer me in the right direction. Like I said, I think God had me go through that what seemed like so long, like that horrible point in my life, to learn from it and to grow from it. So I think that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Steven, you already did talk about this, but was your identity more affected by your injury, do you think, or by stopping baseball all of a sudden, or not being able to play baseball? Which of those do you think affected you?
Oh,
the most?
it was all of it. You know, like I said, like even when I came to APU, like they recruited me here, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna play baseball. I'm still gonna play college baseball. I still have a chance to get drafted, maybe. You know what I'm saying? I still have a chance to play professionally. And then, like I remember I was pitching. I was throwing a bullpen. Like bullpens, like when you're practice pitching and like on a practice, and I felt it. And I was like, that isn't like, it just felt different. You know what I'm saying? Usually I have arm soreness, but this just felt different. And I was like, this isn't good. And I went to the doctor, and he told me, he's like, you have a torn labrum. Honestly, I was like, you know, I need you to be honest with me. Like, what's? He's like, if I have surgery, you can have surgery, but it's gonna be out for a year and a half, and you're not gonna be the same player that you were. Like, you're not gonna throw as hard as you could. You're just not gonna be the same. And he's like, in so many words, he told me like, you're pretty much done. And I was like, it was like what? Like, it just hit me. Like, I went from like playing college baseball to like not doing anything, and I was just like out of it. And I told my mom, and I was like, I even told my mom, and I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm done playing baseball. Like, I just stopped showing up to like practice. I stopped showing up to everything. I went to school. I went to school. I finished my school, and then I was like, I looked for a job. I was like, Mom, I'm not going to school. School's not for me. I went to school to play baseball. You know what I'm saying? I didn't. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like I went to school to go to school. I went to school because I wanted to play baseball. That was it. And so I was like, you know, I'm done with school. This school is not for me. I'm gonna go like work. And I started working. I worked at a few different like just terrible jobs. You know what I'm saying? It was just like early in the morning, or like I worked overnights, and it was just people they looked depressed. You know, I'm not trying to hate on people. Like, that's what you love to do. That's what you love to do. But like for me, it just wasn't the life I wanted to live. And like my mom even like, this is like, I really don't talk to my mom. I do, but like it's hard to have a conversation because she's just a very like loud and just out there person that it's hard to just sit down and talk with her. Yeah, and she just told me, she's like, Steven, like, you know, I won't, like, you're an adult, you're gonna make your own decisions, but like, is this what you really, really want to do? And I was like, it's not. Like, I need to find something. and she like found an essay that I wrote. I don't know from like how long ago from Mount Sac, and she read it and she's like, "This is like really good writing. Like this is something a skill that you have that you could like build on." And I was like all right, then I'm just gonna go back to school and like I'm gonna go back to AP and register and like do a journalism major. Like if I can write, I'll do that. And I remember talking like one of my last days like at the old job I worked at, and this was like something I still remember to this day. This was like this older man, like maybe 40 years old, 45. And he worked, and most of them were like older than me. So I was like the only like young kid, and like most of them like been there for like 10 years. And this guy talked to me, and he just like, I remember him telling me, he was like, we were sitting in the parking lot after work, and I'm like, yeah, I'm probably gonna quit. And he's like, honestly, I've been waiting for you to tell me that. He's like, there's no reason you should be here. Like you're 24. He's like, you're an insult to all of us if you're gonna be here in the next 10 years. You know what I'm saying? Like he's like, you're an insult to everybody here that you're wasting your youth like working at these dumb jobs. I still remember that. I haven't talked to the guy since. You know what I'm saying? I think I still have his number, but I haven't talked to the guy. And I remember that because like it was like that's someone. This guy was like more genuine than people I hung out with like at Mount Sac. You know, like he was really looking out for my best interest, and like that's something that I really appreciated from that guy. And I mean, I don't know, he's not listening, but I really did appreciate that guy. Like it was like really like I don't know, I felt like connected to him.
To go off of what Steven said too, I think that's rare that you find someone in life that's having you like that's giving you that push, because I feel like with today in society, you never see people wanting other people to succeed, as sad as that is. And so like with him, it was that man. With me, it was my mom, because I really just thought, okay, I think every athlete thinks it like, oh, if I make it big, I want to help my mom and dad out. I want to give back to them and give back to those that have helped me. So, but yeah, like I said, I think that was like a really big thing for him, like I said, because it's sad just no one likes to see others succeed anymore for some odd reason.
Yeah,
like
because they're so focused on themselves succeeding and not
getting money.
Exactly, getting money, not looking at those around them. And okay, so Jourdan, how do you think your identity will be shaped after you graduate, and what are your plans on either continuing tennis or stopping tennis? How do you think that'll affect you?
I don't know. Well, my parents think that once I'm done with college, I'm done with tennis. And I used to always hear my coach tell me, like, I can see you being a tennis coach like me, when you have so much love for tennis. And I don't know. I just think like if I stop playing, it's going to be a very, very big change after college, because this is what I've been doing every day since I was 9. Yeah. Now I'm 25. And it's I don't know. It's just, but the identity and the person that I am now, tennis has made me this way. And I think there's nothing that I would change about it. Like I said, it's always been my outlet of when I'm sad. And I haven't had a serious injury like Steven. I just rolled my ankle and I was like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. Like I'm done with tennis. But no, I bounced back, and I think, like I said, that's just made me stronger.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys. And before we close, I hope Steven and Jourdan's story has encouraged all of you not to ground your identity in things in life that are not eternal, that may not be eternal, they may not be God's intention for you, but instead to ground your identity in the hope that Christ shows us. So here's our last song set, starting with Jeremy Camp. And finally, I know the moment you've all been waiting for, our first holiday song by Lauren Daigle. All right, guys, we're coming to a close here. Thank you for listening to Insecurity to Identity on ZooNews.com. I want to give Steven and Jourdan another warm thank you for being on the show today and being willing to share their stories. Next week, we're going to be talking about identity in Thanksgiving. I'm so excited for Thanksgiving break. I know all of you college friends are ready for a break and ready to be with our families. So we're going to be talking about finding things to be thankful for in the hustle and bustle of today. Again, I have my Facebook, my Twitter, and my Instagram up, and I'm thinking about putting up some new things for you guys this week on Instagram, and I'll be putting up week 6 this weekend, so go check those out. If you weren't aware, we have other shows on Zoo Radio as well. This week we have Brandon's show, we have Marley's show, we have Asia's show, and we even have Sterling's show. He has a sports show on here as well, so give those other kids a follow. And I want to remind you guys again that you have a great purpose in this world today, and you have a great opportunity to make a difference in the world and make a difference among your college students and your families and friends. And if you do struggle with insecurities, and if you struggle with your identity as an athlete, know that you're not alone. We just had 2 people on here today saying that they have dealt with those things, so you're not alone in that. And just know that we're praying for you. And remember to go with God this week and know that you're beautiful and special in God's eyes.